am Lynn, and today I'm going to talk about the Dahmer Craze. So let me just jump right to the question here. It says this weekend I encountered 3 different cable programs on Jeffrey Dahmer. He is relevant these days because it seems many young people fall victim to satanic possession or something like it. Dahmer seemed to be close to Jekyll and Hyde personality, with a meek exterior hiding his dark interior life. He claimed personal responsibility for all his heinous actions, saying he was aware and being himself when he murdered. An interesting thing I didn't know was his mother, who I always suspected as being a major cause of him turning bad, was a happy and positive person until she became pregnant and then had anxiety attacks through her pregnancy, where she took a lot of pills and medication. After Jeffrey was born, she would never touch him or let grandparents near him and became more neurotic. I'm wondering if a satanic force entered Jeffrey when he was in his mother's womb and affected them both. Was Jeffrey's darkness part of his DNA, or did it enter him? Was he a weak person that allowed the evil to use him, or did he alone have a split personality where he was completely responsible for his acts? If it was a form of satanic possession, do you see this on the rise with young people now? I know it's a dark topic to take, but raises a lot of issues that can help people understand when things like this happen. Thanks. So basically, in a nutshell, this person's wanting to know what's going on here. It does feel relevant. A lot of people are acting maybe a little differently than they would have 5, 10, 15 years ago. What is going on? What is the cause of all this? Just basically what is happening. And I too, like everybody else, has noticed that the media, this Dahmer thing's been in the media a lot. I initially, to be honest, just felt really repelled. I didn't want to watch it, but after this question, I've had a couple questions, honestly, conversations, even my kids talking about, their age group. They've been definitely marketed to watch it, people talking about it at school. I decided I would watch a few episodes, get a vibe for it, and I saw a couple different agendas at play here. I'd be curious if you align with anything that I'm saying as of right now. So first of all, after watching some of this series, I'm referring to the one they had on Netflix. I know there's been multiple different things out there on him. I get that the issues that his mother encountered when she was pregnant and issues after triggered an imbalance. So basically the pregnancy hormones created this feeling with her. Not only did his mom have mental struggles that were induced by pregnancy, they were treated with various prescribed by a doctor medications, which I thought that part was really interesting. It's not that she self-medicated and sought all this out. These were things given to her by a medical provider. When someone's having a low moment, using anything mind-altering, it can open up a gateway for negative entities. And I've seen this before when people have had negative energy in their house or they have something going on. Sometimes if you have someone that's mentally imbalanced or suffering something like that, they feel much more vulnerable to those type of attacks because you are at that very low vibration. And so I got that's what exactly happened during her very vulnerable time, that a negative entity basically attacked her. I was attracted to it and attacked her. Darker forces definitely took over and had an impact on the growing fetus as well. That felt very clear to me. Even after birth, the treatment from his mother on his already traumatized psyche allowed darkness to foster within Jeffrey as well. Whether positive or negative, kids don't have or have this developed rational mind, and they're very open to all kinds of energies and entities that may be around them. This is further exacerbated by the abandonment of his mother and somewhat his father, which became a huge emotional trigger, i.e. being alone. He didn't want to be alone because everybody kept leaving him. He had this very underlying strong emotion of abandonment, and that triggered a lot of the actions that he took later in life because he wanted these people not to leave him and be with him. And he was weak, damaged, and his connection to the darker forces within him were the only thing that made him felt like he had a connection, made him felt like something was around. This environment basically created the perfect storm for a psychopath or a sociopath to form, and that's what happened with him. What stood out to me as much of what I watched geared people to understand and somewhat sympathize with him because you felt bad for how he was treated. And even though sympathizing for someone and having empathy and all those feelings are very normal human reactions, we should never excuse the heinous or darker activity. And I had this sense that that's what they were, in some regard, even subliminally. I can't say that without a tongue twister, but you know what I mean. I felt like that was trying to come through. And I had the sense that people that do darker magic or ritualistic behavior involving human, and not to be disgusting, but consumption of all kinds, some is solid, some is liquid, it was kind of a justification for that as well. It just had a very odd vibe that it was really important that people empathized with what he did. And the second thing is I saw this as a message or reaching out to those that are into the human consumption group, category, cult, whatever you want to call it as well. This pertains to both, again, the solid and the liquid, trying not to be completely disgusting, even though that is. The powers that were take practice in selling and consuming adreno fill in the blank, which is exactly what Jeffrey was consuming before he or we even knew what that was, before that ever became a topic in the media. I somehow think there's a message to this cult of people, but it was really unclear. I just felt like there was some message, some signal, something they were trying to get across. Unless it relates to the next point I have, and I just haven't quite figured out how to connect the dots. And if you have, or you have a clue, please leave a comment, because I would love to hear your insight on that. So then the third thing I got that I really felt was emerging within this is the setting of this revolves largely around his attacks on the homosexual, the African American, and the lower income communities. That's where a lot of this happened. His targets most times were in all three of those categories. That's where he lived. That's where he met a lot of his victims. And I see this partly to evoke some outrage, as the police were called on him several times and they did very little. As these men disappeared, they knew that something was happening, but they took little action. And I see this being brought to light even more to get some people angry, offended, and outspoken. I'm just watching for just something to happen as a result of that. I see small groups or pockets of society using this as justification to be outraged. And I like, hey, see what happened here? See what community was impacted? You did nothing. The police did nothing. I can just feel it now happening. All in all, very, very sad story. Mental imbalance, drug that was prescribed even, that was just more outrageous, and the influx of negative energy, just all of that combined created this horrible thing. If only someone would have helped his mother, helped her avoid medications, gave her love, even directed her in a spiritual or godly praying, go to God, go to church, whatever, something higher vibrational, anything, might have been able to give her the direction that she needed that could have had just a completely different outcome. I don't know, that was just my intuitive take on this whole situation here. And that was all I have for this reading. I'd be so curious your thoughts. What are your takeaways? Have you watched this documentary? What do you think's going on here? I will leave you with that. And if you want to hop on over to the blog and see some cool things going on there, I would be most appreciative. And don't forget to like and share my work. Helps me out. I will leave you with all that. Again, I am Lynn with Psychic Focus at psychicfocus.blogspot.com. I'll see you in my next video. Take care. Bye.